People, welcome to Newspaper Breakdown. It is the 28th of the 2nd. Hope we're all fine. Only 5 stories today, so it probably will be quite a quick video, maybe 10 minutes, hopefully. We shall see. But we're going to start with a cost of living crisis, something always to have some fun on. Kantar World Panel has reported that food inflation that is now risen to 17.1% in February means that families have faced a potential £811 annual rise in the cost of regular shopping over the last 12 months. It had been hoped that the drop in inflation in December might have signalled the start of inflation on food declining, but the drop in December has been put down to the big 4 supermarkets, food chains, fighting to maintain the market share and putting in temporary Christmas discounts. So everything looked cheaper, although all of those discounts are gone, so food inflation is just fucking flying. It is important to remember that with food inflation being how high it is, the people who get hurt by that the most are poor people. The reason for that is very simple. Poor people tend to spend a higher chunk of their wage on food. So if you're rich, you may only spend, say, 10%, 5% on food for the month. If you're poor, it will be a lot closer to 40-50%. Probably less, considering if you take into account how much everyone's chucking away for energy and rent and everything else. But as I say, the higher proportion of wage, so the higher it goes up, the more it affects poor people. That's just how society is, though, isn't it? Anyway, a study by the Royal College of Emergency Medicine has suggested that in 2022 there were 23,000 excess deaths linked to long A&E waiting times. Its analysis shows 1.66 million people were left waiting for more than 12 hours in A&E. The number came from Freedom of Information requests made to the NHS, and the RCEM used data from a 2021 emergency medicine journal to perform analysis. It's all very numbery, it's all very county, there's mortality rates and everything else in it. And I will go into all of it, but I can't be fucked. I won't understand all of it. You may not understand all of it, and you'd make it harder for you to understand it if I try to explain it, because I don't have a fucking clue. Excess deaths because NHS is fucked. And those excess deaths come, why? Because of the people we currently have in charge. The Institute for Fiscal Studies, which is a leading tax and spending watchdog, has suggested that Jeremy Hunt could afford a bigger wage rise to striking public sector workers by cancelling the planned fuel duty freeze that will cost £6 billion. The Chancellor of the IFS, Paul Johnson, has said that it is a straight choice between subsidising car driving and helping public sector workers with the cost of living crisis. There is, of course, an argument to be made that if you don't freeze the fuel duty, once again, who's going to be buggered the most? Poor people. So it's very much a balancing act. A pay rise averaging 5.5% would add £5 billion to the bill for this year's settlement. The IFS also claims that the view that increasing a public sector wage would ramp up inflation was exaggerated, because the effect would be extremely small comparative to the size of the actual economy. Jeremy Hunt has claimed that giving the public sector a pay rise that they want would cost £28 billion. But this number is disputed by the IFS, arguing that the cost of the increase from the current average offer of 3.5% to 5.5% could be less than £5 billion, with between 30 and 40% of the pay rise being clawed back with higher VAT, income tax receipts, and a national insurance payment. There's always an answer. We can do many things. The issue always comes is if we're going to do something, we may have to not do something else. It is something that the government likes to do to make themselves look good. You tend to find in budgets they give with one hand and they take with the other. And so it will be like, oh yeah, well, we're going to give you an income tax rise, but we're also going to freeze this particular thing, so the costs actually go up overall anyway. So this is just this, but you would be doing nice things for the public sector, and they probably won't do it. I think we've got 3 stories left. Research by the internet rights group Access Now and the Keep It On coalition has shown a record 187 shutdowns of internet services in response to political upheaval last year, causing incalculable and persistent damage to people's lives. The shutdowns are spread over 35 countries, with most shutdowns triggered by protests, conflicts, and allegations of human rights violations, with a smaller number coinciding with school exams and elections. India, surprisingly, was the biggest offender, with at least 84 internet blackouts in 2022, biggest democracy my whole, with most happening in disputed regions of Jammu and Kashmir. Other repeat offenders include Iran and Myanmar. So what a lovely, lovely group where no one is being killed. Russia's military also used missiles and cyber attacks to cut off Ukraine's internet 22 times and tried to force occupied territories onto a highly censored and surveilled Russian network. The largest recorded blackout is by Ethiopia's government over the Tigray region, lasting more than 2 years amid allegations of killings, rapes, and ethnic cleansings. After a ceasefire in November, phone and mobile internet was restored. One of the major reasons to shut down the internet is control, of course. It's to control the narrative and shield the government from accusations, covering up their own actions. One positive, because there should always be a positive in something, is that only 5 countries cut off the internet during elections last year compared to 12 in 2021, which is nice. However, because we always need to slap down anything that resembles hope, there are a number of elections happening this year where we could see a complete change in that. So something to keep an eye out on. It tends to be, if you're cutting off the internet, you're hiding something. That's just how it goes. No one's doing it because it costs more and you have to wait until 6 o'clock. Devil's Use Spunk Sock, Rupert Murdoch has acknowledged under oath that several Fox News hosts endorsed Donald Trump's lie that the 2022 elections were rigged. The admission was made during the $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit brought by voting machine company Dominion, which accused Fox News and the parent company Fox Corporation, both of which of course are owned by Murdoch, of maligning its reputation. Murdoch himself has dismissed Trump's claims and admitted that he could have stopped Fox News from platforming Trump's lawyers who pushed this false narrative, but he didn't. He chose not to. This case is a landmark with such seemingly overwhelming proof that Fox had purposefully pushed lies in order to increase its viewership and revenue, with the trial expected to begin in mid-April. Everything from Fox News to fucking GB News to all of this far right bollocks, incels, influencers, all of these horse shitters, every single one of them, this is what they do. They peddle bollocks because the people who will watch them have such tiny, tiny brains and are so scared of reality that they require being told that there's some malignant force out there, instead of it just being life. They are whiny little fucks who the concept of self-assessment is beyond them. And so they listen to Fox News because Fox News tells them exactly what they want to hear. And if Fox News ever went, honestly, Trump's talking horseshit here, everyone would stop watching. It's one of the problems that like the far right comedians have, because a lot of them don't believe in the shit that they say. They don't. I've known a few of them for years. They don't believe any of this shit, but they were never good enough to get the fame they believed they deserved. So they went right wing. They started saying all this horse shit, woke and all of this bollocks. And they can't change from there. Because the fans that they've got, if they start changing and going, you know what, actually, equality is not a bad idea, all their fans will go. Because the fans control them now. It's a very sad state of affairs, really. It shows that Fox News aren't in charge at that point. If they're the ones who are not dictating the truth of what's being said, and they're the ones who are only saying the lies to keep viewerships and to keep revenue, at that point you're not in charge anymore, are you? Right, final story. Homelessness charity Crisis has said that it is likely that the government will miss its target to end rough sleeping in England by 2024, as it reports a rise in homelessness across the country. Ahead of the annual Rough Sleeper Snapshot, due to be published this week, Crisis said it was seeing more first-time homelessness, in part due to a lack of affordable housing and under-resourcing of support services. Figures are expected to be less than before the pandemic. So from before the pandemic to now, there is less homelessness. But compared to the figures that we had during the pandemic, where we all worked to make sure there was less homelessness has gone up from there. So, 15 years or 13 years and we still have mass homelessness in this country. And all the time you've had the Tories say we're going to try to get rid of it, and they never have. So, well, that's enough of that. So, as I say, some interesting stuff there. Nothing that revs your engine like yesterday's, but that's just the news that was there, isn't it? I can't change it, but we'll see you tomorrow for maybe some more exciting stuff. Bye.